It's been an interesting eclipse energy. I ended up on Saturday spending a lot of time within myself and with myself in that place of solitude. I took my dog for a walk. It was a beautiful, beautiful day out. Took my dog for a walk, did some walking meditations. I did some chanting, did some energy work with Kuan Yin. She ended up coming in to support the work that I was doing. I also ended up doing some journaling. And then after I did that journaling to really go deep, and I mean, like, I went into like the underworld of myself. I allowed myself to access a part of myself and a part of my journey with my counterpart that I had been afraid to admit to myself, which was the amount of pain that I had felt in the connection. Because for the most part, I've been feeling great. For the most part, I've been feeling at peace with the journey, letting go. This journey happens in layers. It's like an onion. You just keep peeling back the layers and peeling back the layers and peeling back the layers. And I allowed myself to really go back into the center of that onion of my journey and what I experienced, kind of like ripping it all away. Any pretense, any excuse, anything that I was logically feeling, because logically I'm like, I'm doing great, like I'm okay, I'm at peace, can still love this person, I have unconditional love for this person, but I know my boundaries, I know that I'm going to honor myself, and if he's not honoring of me, then there's no consideration for connection. So there's like this logical component that was in battle with my heart, and my heart was like, I love him and I've been so incredibly pained by him. And I allowed myself to go really, really deep within and to unlock that pain and that anger that I was feeling and that grief that I was feeling, because I had felt like, in a way, that I had gone through a death, or I'd gone through a divorce, or I'd gone through both, with the end of our connection, or the end of that communication and that connection as it was, that phase of our journey that we were in. Because some of you know we had been living together. I spent the past 6 years with him, and it ended very painfully. But I still held on to faith, and I still held on to hope, and I still held on to belief in him and me and us. And so the eclipse allowed me to really reach into that, into the core of that, into the guts of that, and to allow myself to feel everything that I needed to feel. With regards to that, and to really put the responsibility, because for 6 years I've put the responsibility, the whole of our connection and our relationship, on myself, and always willing to take accountability for my part. But at some point I had to also begin to say, you know what, I can take responsibility and accountability for the role that I played and the parts that I played, because I wasn't always acting in my conscious state. I wasn't always acting in my state of maturity, especially in the beginning. You don't know what you don't know about this journey. The point is that when you grow more conscious and when you grow more aware, then you make new choices from that level of consciousness. And so I can see how I have grown, but I could also see where he was operating from. And I could also allow myself to finally be in a place where I can have that compassion and hold that space and have that understanding where he was operating from, but also say, you know what, at the same time, that's not acceptable. I can understand where you're coming from, and I can understand how you're behaving and how you're acting, and I can still love the soul of you and the heart of you, because I know that you're not your actions, and I know that you're not your words, but at the same time, it's not acceptable. So it was I was dealing with a lot of what felt like complicated emotions and what felt like contradictory emotions. But that's life. Life is not so black and white. Not is not Life is not so matter of fact. Life is messy. Human emotion is messy. And you can hold two emotions, you can hold two truths. And so that's what I was going through. I was going through this process where I was releasing a lot of the past and allowing myself to come into this place of love, while still allowing myself to say, okay, you know what? I can still love this person and say the way that I was treated, the way that you behaved was unacceptable, was not fair. Um, and I was not deserving of it, and I can know that and hold that within myself. And whatever his experience and whatever his truth is, it can be his truth, but I can know that for myself. And so it really feels like there was an ending of a chapter, and that ending has been coming in for quite a while. But I really feel like I released the core of that grief, because I allowed myself to feel it, allowed myself to sit with it, I allowed myself to actually acknowledge it without trying to be the strong person, without trying to just kind of bypass my own experience and go right back into the energy of love, because I do have so much love and I wanted to just feel that love for him. Not that I want to reconnect with him, not that I want to. I'm just not in a place where I don't think I can entertain a reconnection with him, honestly. But I wanted that conclusion. I wanted that peace between us. I wanted that energy of love again, because I know how much love I have for him. And I do know how much love that he had for me. I do not doubt that whatsoever. But I had to also acknowledge everything else that transpired. And there was a lot of wrestling with myself, because it's like, how can two things be true? How can I go to that place of love for him when there was so much hurt? And the thing is, you can. You can. Life can be a little bit complicated like that. Emotions can be a little bit complicated like that, especially when we affix to the human experience. I did a collective reading that should be available now. It's called a Journey Forward or Path Forward, something like that. And I think it's called a Journey Forward. And in it, I channeled a message of there can be more than one experience. There can be more than one truth. There can be more than one feeling. And the point is not to carry the lesson, well, the point is to carry the lessons and the wisdom and the love forward, but not hold on so much to the past. And it doesn't mean that you're bypassing the past. It doesn't mean that you're avoiding the past or pretending it doesn't exist, but you can allow yourself to carry that love forward. So it was a powerful message, and they're just bringing it to me now because it's a similar energy of, yes, there can be love, and there can also have been pain. So it's been an interesting couple of days, especially with Taylor Swift dropping her 1989 Taylor's Version album. Over the past year, it's been interesting for me because listening to her music, really sometimes even for the first time, because I was never a big Taylor Swift fan, it's interesting because the lyrics, it's like I'm getting called to listen to the songs that I'm called to for the healing, and the songs are really speaking to where I'm at on the healing journey. And sometimes it's anger that I need to release and purge, and sometimes it's grief, and sometimes it's confusion, like what the hell happened, and sometimes it's the back and forth. So I went for a drive on Friday, another beautiful day, and was it Thursday? I can't remember. Friday. And I ended up listening to her album and some select songs. And if you guys want to know the songs that I really resonate with, let me know, and I'll share those. But I was really resonating with some of them, and especially like the vault tracks and how it really applies to how I felt in a lot of my journey with this person. And when I got to the song This Love, I just burst into tears, because that's always what I felt in my heart, is the love. And coming back and going away, and coming back and going away. And like it's like the love sometimes feels like it's dead, and then sometimes it feels like it's alive again. And that's the journey, isn't it? That's really the journey. It's like, um, how do you let it go completely? And so on Saturday, as I was going through this process, I realized I don't have to let the love go. In a way, I don't even have to let the connection go, because I've realized I can't. I have examined this connection over and over and over, every single angle, every which way, as processes for release and detachment and disconnect along this past 6 years of my journey. I've examined everything, and what it keeps coming down to is, yes, he is my twin. Yes, he feels like my person. And I have realized that he can be my twin and he can be my person and not be with me in the physical. And I know that many of us look at the blueprint of the twin flame journey. We're like, how can that be? You're meant to be with that person. And I just don't believe that. I just don't believe that anymore. I believe that there will always be a connection. I believe that there will always be, um, Because the things that I've experienced and the connection that I've experienced even now, the energy that you experience even now, it's so profound. I will always believe that he's my person, but he's not my person now. At least in this moment, he's not my person now. And so there's been this kind of like a liberation and a release, that I don't have to hold on to what was, just because he is this connection to me. Now, this is my own personal experience. You might be experiencing it a number of different ways. And remember that your journey is yours. And so if you're experiencing your journey or understanding your journey in a different way, please do keep following your heart and keep following your intuition. This is just how I've come to understand and experience through my experiences. I have been channeling over the past year or two that it's almost like there are two phases. And this is the Vesica Pisces, and this really came to me when I was in Glastonbury at Chalice Well, which is and the White Spring, which is the feminine and masculine energy. I was feeling the masculine energy, the sacred masculine, so profoundly. And this is what I really began to understand. It's all within you. It is all within you, and it will be expressed outside of you. However, if your person, maybe your person, twin flame is an energy, and maybe your person that had that label, or who had that definition, or who was a catalyst for you energetically, maybe just isn't moving with you into that next phase of your journey, because maybe they have their own journey to complete. Maybe they have their own free will and their own choices. And it's not a rejection of you, and it's not a rejection of love. In some ways, maybe it's a rejection of the self. But that's for them to figure out. That's for them to understand. It's not a rejection of love. In some ways, maybe it's because you yourself have other connections to experience, or other relationships to experience. And that's not to say that you might never come into connection or relationship with this person. I fully believe that someday he and I will see each other again, and hopefully have a healthy conversation. And that's what I was releasing on Saturday. That's what I want. Not for a relationship, but for a healthy conversation, because he was my best friend. And part of the grief of my separation from him, so to speak, even though I don't ever really feel separate from that energy within me anymore, part of that separation and that was experienced, the grief that was experienced with that was, um, he was my best friend. And that's what I missed most of all, because we had a relationship, but it was very much a one-sided relationship. And so sometimes, as you move into a higher level of embodiment and a higher level of your ascension journey, the energy shifts. And so the twin flame energy, I call it the twin flame and the twin soul. Sometimes it's the same person, but you remove all that toxic elements, all that fiery element that kind of hooked you in, right? Doesn't mean that you don't have passion, doesn't mean that you don't have that fire and that adventure and that excitement, but it's much more peace filled. It's much more compatible. It's much more in harmony. It's the union energy, the harmony of the union energy that you move into. And that's where it becomes that twin soul kind of dynamic. And sometimes it's another person, especially if this person is not ready, through their own free will, through their own choices, through their own whatever it is. This journey, if we affix to a certain blueprint, it has to happen this way. That's when we keep ourselves trapped. And believe me, for a very long time, I held on to beliefs like this is what the journey has to look like. If I'm healing myself, naturally he has to be healing too, right? And the quick answer is yes. But the other answer is yes, however, or yes, and, because sometimes it doesn't happen in the linear form or in the linear nature that we think. On the highest level, you're still doing this together. On the highest level, I can still feel him. On the highest level, I can still feel his higher self loving me and honoring me in the way that I feel like he truly wants to. But I also have to be accepting of what's being shown in the 3D, in the physical form. And so there's a release that's happening there. And I ended up, I had been keeping letters to each other since our separation. And I ended up writing out a final letter I'm doing this journaling and releasing a lot of this energy and this pain and this grief. And then I was called to do a fire ceremony. And so I did. I ended up burning all those journal pages, all those letters, and releasing the past, releasing the pain. And that was actually a chant that they channeled forth to me, was I release the past, I release the pain, with this flame only love remains. So that only love will remain. And that's what I carry with me. And it's all about the present moment. It's not about, oh my gosh, we're never going to be together, and fixating on that and saying never is forever. No, like, I have no idea what the future holds, but I do know that in this moment I can't keep holding on as I had been and as I still wanted to. I have to allow myself to open up to every potential. And especially when I was away, especially in Glastonbury, I really felt that sacred masculine anchor into myself, so that I don't feel like I'm needing anything outside of myself. I don't feel like I'm missing anything outside of myself. There's a sense of peace that washes over me. And so this residual grief and this residual pain and this residual energy is just that. It's just residual. It's been a process for me over this past year, of coming home fully to myself and recognizing that even this person is not outside of myself, and that I can love him, and I can even miss certain aspects of him, the physical aspects of him, because again, we spent so much of our time together and he really was my best friend. But I can also allow myself to release that and move on to make different memories and new memories. Um, and have that unconditional love for him, because I also recognize that this is unconditional love. There's a Taylor Swift lyric that really spoke to me, and I think it comes from this love as well, about opening your hands and setting it free. And give me just a second, because I do want to look it up. I feel as if, again, it's all about being very present and not having expectations and not holding on to the past. This love left a permanent mark. This love is glowing in the dark. These hands had to let it go free, and this love came back to me. I'm not holding on to, if I let him go free, he's going to come back. I'm not holding on to that. And I think for so long I was holding on to that, because in truth, he has always been my person, just not like that. There's another Taylor Swift lyric that goes, oh my gosh, my best friend had posted it on her Instagram, of something along the lines, I can't remember as I'm channeling, something along the lines of, like, you wanted this, but all I wanted was you, but not like that. And that's how it feels. It's like, I wanted you, like, that was just all I wanted. It was just for a healthy, committed, reciprocal relationship where we loved each other and allowed ourselves to express that love for each other, but not like the way that it played out. So it's been interesting, this energy of, what is unconditional love? Unconditional love is saying, you know, we can both be free, and I can still hold that love for you. And I can recognize and honor that you are on your journey, whatever that journey is and wherever that takes you. They're reminding me now of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. And in Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, Santiago goes on a quest, and he doesn't quite know what that quest is. He doesn't quite know what that journey is, but he knows that he has to follow it through. And he meets a woman that he just absolutely falls in love with. And she recognizes that he has to go on a quest. And that's where the quote, I love you because the whole of the universe conspired for me to meet you, or to find you, or whatever it is, or to love you. And she recognizes that he has to go on his journey. He has to discover himself. And I feel like that is the epitome of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It's the epitome. It's, you both have to honor each other's journey, because you honor and love each other so much, and you recognize that. And for myself, I think I've let go of expectations and timelines, and I do feel like someday hopefully we'll at least have a conversation, because I don't think either of us quite know what happened and how the separation happened. I don't think either of us quite necessarily wanted it, but it's what happened. And I feel as if it was almost like divinely orchestrated. And I feel like it's because we had our individual journeys to go on. I can recognize that, I probably would not have grown as much outside of the separation as I have in the past couple of months, the past year. And that's because of everything that I've discovered within myself. And especially when it comes to being in a relationship with somebody, especially when it comes to being in a relationship with myself, about how I was constantly overgiving and constantly putting somebody above myself, and how, especially when it comes to my own healing, I can't do that. And so I can't feel anything but grateful. It's a complicated to articulate how it is that I'm feeling. I share all of this because you guys might be experiencing something similar, where it feels very complicated to the outside world. It feels very complicated unless you're going through it, unless you're experiencing these emotions and these feelings and this sense of completeness and wholeness and union and even freedom within yourself, with some residual energy of grief and love, and letting go of some pain. Um, this is not like a regular relationship. This is not like a regular connection with somebody. These twin flame connections really can sometimes feel very brutal, because it is the Great Awakener. It really brings you home to yourself, and it forces you home to yourself. It forces you to look at yourself and look at your shadows. And I always say that it's not just your shadows, but it's your light. You have to look at both. Your shadow work is not just about looking at the shadows within yourself, and where are your weaknesses, and where do you have to hold yourself accountable, and where do you have to find your courage, and etc., etc. But it's about, okay, where am I also being brave? Where am I also honoring myself? Where am I also loving myself and choosing myself? Where am I also integrating all of those shadows into the light? It's about both. It's not about one thing or the other. And the more that you go through your dark night of the soul, and the more you go through the deep dives of your shadow work, the lighter that you feel. Because when you're doing shadow work, it's all about bringing it to light, bringing it to your awareness. And from there, you get to make powerful choices for yourself. From there, you can say, no, the shadow doesn't have power over me anymore. That's what integrating it into the light means. It means this pain doesn't hold power over me anymore. The past doesn't hold power over me anymore. Even this journey and this connection doesn't hold power over me anymore. That I'm a sovereign being in every sense of the word. And I get to make choices for myself that are honoring of myself. And that includes how I want to be in connection, how I want to be treated. And sometimes that means letting go of what you knew. And sometimes it even means letting go of the person that you love more than anything in the world. More than anything in the world. In order to love yourself that much more, just that much more, you have to choose to love yourself just that much more. He is the person that I love more than anything in the world. I had to choose myself and love myself just that much more. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting. If you guys are listening to Taylor Swift, let me know what songs are resonating for you as well. Like I said, those vault tracks, they're really hitting, man. But it's good because it means helping me become aware of what I was experiencing, what I don't want to experience again. And from there, I get to choose differently. I get to choose how I want to love and be loved differently. And I get to open up to all those potentials. And there's just a sense of excitement with that. There's just a sense of excitement of I know how I love, and I know how I want to feel loved, and that's all I'm going to accept, because again, I'm going to love myself that much more.